YouTuber.
So we've done something else kind of unique. So our good friend Jordan here, he reached out to us, and I'm gonna let Jordan tell you about this cube he's designed and what myself, Stu, and Jordan have kind of done together as a collective to try to, I don't know, no derogatory terms. When I first started about this, I'm like Cube Rescue, Cube Clinic, and all that's super pretentious.
It is.
All we're gonna say is helping a friend, just like I've been helped by my
Cube
good friend.
feedback?
Cube feedback.
Go with those pretentious titles. Go with it. I
There
like
we go.
it. Cube Clinic, Cube Doctor, whatever it is. I like it. I like
Uber
those type of
Clinic.
titles.
All right, Uber Clinic, Uber Med. All right, so Uber Med, and I'm gonna let him tell you about this particular cube he's got, and I'll tell you what we've kind of done together as a group. Go ahead, Jordan. Rock on with
Sure.
yourself.
So this cube is cube that I've been playing for a while. I have a one drop cube. And it kind of started out as a copy of Thomas Crom's one drop cube. And what this cube is, 4-player cube. So 4 players draft 5 packs of 9 cards, and there is 180 cards. So in a draft, you're going to see all the cards in there, and everything costs 1 mana. There's no 2 mana. There's no fireball spells that are like X and red. No, it's everything costs 1 mana. And over the years, I've added cards, taken cards away, and I need some help with this cube because it's kind of lost its focus. I kind of stepped away from Thomas Crom's approach, and it kind of overpowered. Like I had ancestral recall in there, and just other things that are degenerate and not really balanced. So Stu and Anthony stepped in and really helped me out with it.
Yeah, so it's easy when you're building a thematic cube, and we all fall for it, is to just commit to the bit too much. I have. So I'll give you an example. So my artifact cube, originally I actually didn't have that many artifacts in it. I mean, I really overly centralized on creatures that interacted with artifacts, but my actual brown section or my colorless section wasn't really powerful. And Chris Moore kind of just did this like diversity of insight, looked at it and just kind of gave me some constructive criticism like you overemphasize your color pairings, right? And you're not really looking at what the cube's, what it's intended to be. And I was trying to do this weird, because I was overly designing behind this artifact, anti-artifact kind of concept.
Yeah.
So I was almost 50-50 by my own trap. I made my own trap.
Yeah, it's like, the analogy that I like is you order a bowl of like pasta and sauce, and someone gives you a bowl and it's got like 2 strings of spaghetti and like a liter of sauce in it. And you're thinking, where's my substance? Where's my filler?
And it's easy to fall into that when you're, thematic cubes are hard. Would you agree, Jordan? They're hard. They're harder to, because we don't have a lot of molds to craft off of. You're going to talk about this in one of your evaluations soon, but you were talking about the MTGO, where people use that as a clone, right? So they have this pattern, this footprint to follow. But us people going out there pioneering these weird, I don't know, one-drop cubes and femme fatale cubes and there's
artifact and 2-headed giant and horror and all that.
Sure, there's a couple of us. There's 4 of us, but we don't have any. So mistakes are going to be made. But when we're looking at these, it's easy to go off the rails, right? And overly invest in a concept. So my point is, one-drops. It's easy when you're trying to build a thematic cube to basically overly commit to the idea. So a 1-drop cube could really suck you in. I mean, hell, it could be a 2-drop cube and you do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You're going to find everything that's powerful at that mana value and you're going to drop it in. And it's easy, in my opinion, to lose sight of the cube at 40,000 feet. Fair enough, right?
Yep.
So when Jordan handed me this list, the first thing I do is what everybody else does is I look for power outliers, just like Jordan did with mine when he evaluated my cubes. You're looking for something, which one of us is different, which one is not the same, right? So I was looking for, not that it would be in there, but like the Jitte-esque, right, or Mox-esque. I was looking for the huge outliers.
Yeah.
And they didn't show up. So then I kind of had to start stepping it down. And a couple of them that caught my eye was like Death Shadow, Mother of Runes. And then I was like, oh my gosh, she's running Ancestral Recall. What?
Yeah.
and
because you want to, right?
because it's one drop.
Because it's one mana and you draw 3 cards.
And-
Like, why wouldn't you want to run that? But then you realize, and it's not always necessarily about the power, right?
Yeah.
It's about, I don't care if I've got, let's say 24 cards, 16
Right.
lands, right? If I've got 24 cards and I've drafted the most amazing green-black or white-red or whatever the case, if I have an Ancestral Recall,
You're playing blue then.
I'm playing it.
Yeah.
I don't care how terrible my mana is. I'm
So-
playing 10 islands to try and cast that card.
In your defense, I don't think this is good in this environment because you're going to, our good friend of ours noticed you're going to empty your hand so fast. It's 1-drops.
Right.
Yep.
It's not like he's going to he'll get a bomb, but it won't be a bomb versus like a power cube. But still, I thought it was tempoing me a little bit to be an outlier that maybe it wouldn't be so fun. It's a little bit too much card advantage versus your opponents.
It's way too strong.
I
So, to put it in perspective, we turned Ancestral Recall into Portent. Why
Yes.
did we do Portent? Explain why.
The reason why I like Portent is because, number one, it's sorcery speed.
Yes.
Right? That is, for me, in a much lower powered environment. Brainstorm, absurdly strong.
Yeah.
Right? I would almost go as far to say Preordain, Ponder.
Yeah.
They're
Can I tell you
they're
why I put
probably too strong.
Portent in this cube?
Go.
Is to control the other opponent's draw step.
I was going to be on my next point.
I
Right? You
wanted
get to look at the card.
I wanted to add when I looked at this cube, and you and I talked about it. Jordan and I spoke about it. Is that he said a problem with aggression in the cube, right? I mean, it's going to be 1-drops.
yeah.
So what I pictured was either the cards just hitting each other, not ever going, and what you had is a person of the hill where one person had to go over the heap,
Yeah.
either through evasion or something like that. So they basically you've got outliers leaking by to hit person for whatever, right? And in order to make this cube more dynamic, I wanted to put some pieces in here to make it more, I don't know, sideways strategy, intricate, not just creatures turning sideways, blocking, evasion, because King of the Hill was kind of happening. Am I wrong in saying that, Jordan? A little bit of King of the Hill?
No, I think you're right because I think one of the traps that I fell into was just play like the most optimal 1-drop of every color.
And it's easy to do.
And that gets to be a problem is just things trying to evade each other, go over each other, and then basically what happens is if you can't remove your opponent's best creature because there's a lot of removal in this, they're going to just take over the game. And
So let's
in
talk
every
about
color
some of
there's
the-
various cards that
Some
could
of the
potentially
things
do
that he and I talked about, like, so you get the idea that we're taking Ancestral Recalls and turning them into Portent, but what we wanted to add is more strategies that can just kind of go sideways, not overly dependent on combat.
So let's talk about some of the cards that we talked about, right? So
Sure.
we did discuss, right? We went through the cube and we were like, right, again, like you said, some power outliers, but also some that we wanted to kind of make suggestions on based on archetypes, based on support in the colors, and so on and so forth. So I think, and I will say, going back, I really do actually quite like the Cube Clinic, right? The Cube Doctor, stuff like that.
It's friendly
right?
enough. And
Jordan,
your insurance, by the way, it got denied, Jordan. So we're gonna need a cash. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Dang.
I say, obviously, Jordan's a passionate Cube guy, right? A lot of people are, we put this out for the community, for Cube enthusiasts. Not everyone has got years and years and years of Magic experience or understands the cards, right?
Yeah.
So for some people, it might just be, doing a search on, Scryfall or maybe looking through cards that they had. So this is a great opportunity to look at some differences, right? Look at some options that are out there.
A little bit of insight, basically, from other people, and it helps as a community. We're all kind of doing this. Stu looks
big
at mine.
brainstorm.
You've evaluated mine. My buddy Chris looks at mine, and it's just constructive criticism. And either you can explain it, or you just decide to move on and put another card in it.
Yeah, especially me as a player. Like, I'm always trying to offer alternatives, right? I fully expect sometimes you're going to say, Stuart, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Get out of here, right? That's fine. But I always want to be like, hey, have you thought about this? This might be a cool addition, or I think this is too powerful, or I think this is too weak. Most of the time it's too weak.
So, Jordan, you want to talk about some of the removals and replacement you did from the 1-drop? And I can explain why.
Yeah, there was two, I would say, strategies that you added to this cube that I really appreciate are the modular. I believe it's modular, right?
Yeah, modular. Yeah, absolutely. And it creates,
Yeah,
and it plays into a lot
I
of your
think
different
that's-
archetypes.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, it plays into a lot of your archetypes that you already had. So like you've got some sacrifice stuff, you've got a little bit of equipment matters.
Yeah.
It just plays into a lot of different themes, and it was nice. So
Yeah, I think it's
Arcbound
good. I think
Javelier,
it's going
etc.
to be able to really contribute to some of the things. One of the cards, I think the best one is the Zibaz Wasp.
Oh yeah,
Is it Glim
yeah.
Wasp, right?
Yeah,
Zabaz
the Glimmer Wasp. That card is
Yeah.
amazing, and it gives you some interesting stuff you can do, and it's fun, and you can destroy an artifact you control, so you can kind of do your own modular trigger. It plays in some of the sacrifice themes you had. It's just a neat concept,
And
and
it's one.
it's
Not one blue, not one red,
It's one.
just one.
And it
One of
does-
anything.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, this card has so many things. And we'll put this up we will put this up on the show notes, and we'll add this list to the show notes because this is kind of doesn't translate so well to the podcast world. But we're also going to have a joint video that we didn't talk about with Jordan, who's also recording this for the channel. Probably should have mentioned that earlier in, but yeah, we're getting a lot of editing.
We'll talk about it right at the end, but yeah. And I will say, just from a personal note, I hate wasps. I don't know anyone that likes them. I don't know anyone that likes wasps, right? Can we just agree as a collective that we all hate wasps? But let me tell you,
They're terrible.
The art on this card, it's a wasp. It has amazing art, and it's a cool card.
I do want to emphasize a couple more cards because what I wanted to add was kind of a Eggs Bomberman modular package, and that's kind of where I went with this. And it was just so that the one-drop cube, as a lot of you guys can imagine, there's a lot of turn sideways creatures like we talked about, climbing over the hill. I wanted stuff that wasn't really combat oriented, like to give a little bit more diversity to the cube. So examples of that would be, and this is interesting, is Toolcraft Exemplar. For 1 planes, you get a 1/1 Dwarf Artificer. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control an artifact, Toolcraft Exemplar gets +2/+1 until the end of turn. If you control 3 or more artifacts, it also gains first strike until the end of turn. The reason why I put this in there is it inspired you or made you want to try to do an artifact synergy, right? Like Metalcraft, kind of, sort of.
This is kind of your like if you're like someone who likes to draft vintage cube and likes to draft mono white aggro. What an incredible card that is, right? In in any kind of artifact supported deck that you have, that card just goes from like, oh, I've got a 1/1 to like, I've got a beater.
And if I use that card as like a keystone or a latchkey, Arcbound Mouser, Esper Sentinel, Pyrite Spellbomb. You notice I added a lot of artifacts, but they all kind of synergize one another, and you can sack them, and it gives a little bit more modular.
Better be careful with Esper Sentinel if you're going too heavy in the artifacts. That card is pretty strong.
Ordered one from my Power Cube.
Yeah. Esper Sentinel is awesome. With this cube, even though everything costs 1 mana,
Sure.
generally when a player ends their turn, they're used all their mana, or there's not extra mana floating around to pay this tax for. So I could see
It
you
being too
drawing, 3-4 cards a game with this at least, unless they kill it outright.
Okay, so maybe you could watch list this one. To be honest with you, I didn't consider that. So let's move on to another card that I did consider. So we kind of did the outliers, which was like Death Shadows and Mother of Runes and Ancestral Recall. And for me, as a curator, those fall into what I see people when they're putting Soul Rings in a non-powered vintage cube or Jitte, and you don't know until you know, right? You find out the hard way. The point is, everybody learns eventually. They have to have a bad game where Jitte beats you to death in what was almost a pauper cube, and you can't figure out what you did until
that card will beat you to death. It doesn't matter how strong your cube is. Jitte it's broken. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so we're going to include the list of all the changes we did on this cube. And this cube is amazing. You guys got to check it out. And it's interesting how you can take something that's like a 1 mana value and turn it into like this dynamic cube, which it's kind of mind-boggling, right? How amazing he curates his cube, and I'm excited to play this in CubeCon. One final point that we did talk about was adding basically the new triomes. They've got all these weird names like Satora's Proving Ground and Xander's Lounge. Is basically that for me, they're not so much their tricolor lands, which they are, but they also draw spells for 3, which I feel like you said based on the fact that you only have 1 CMC or 1 mana value, you probably need to draw some cards. So weird cantrips in addition to land splashing.
I mean, I think in most, like, anytime you have fetches, you want probably that in the cube, I think. In this one, there's no fetches, but still just having that cycling is just awesome because we ran the tri-lands from, what was it, Alara block and the Cons block, and we're like, well, let's put the cycling in because that's just a good option.
Yeah. So that's kind of in a nutshell. We just kind of wanted to do a brief overview of this really awesome cube, cover it, give it a chance because it's going to be at CubeCon. You guys can play it in the side games. I'm sure Jordan's going to be all about it. I'm going to be playing this. Stu's going to be drafting it. My buddy Christian, who's hiding in the corner, is going to be drafting it. And we're excited about it.